Thank you for viewing this short presentation on transition into self-determination from the traditional regional center purchase of service model. This presentation offers an overview of the process and what to expect when moving into self-determined services. Also included are things to consider and prepare for when beginning this process. For anyone who is interested, wants to know more, or is planning to use self-determination services through Regional Center, the first step of the process is to attend an orientation. Call or email your service coordinator to share your interest in the self-determination program. Ask if they have information on upcoming orientations, but also plan to do some research. Listed on this slide are a number of ways to attend an orientation. Before taking the orientation, be sure to confirm with the service coordinator that the orientation you plan to attend meets the regional center's requirements. In the summer of 2022, State Council on Developmental Disability, in cooperation with the Department of Developmental Services, started offering orientations. They are virtual, live, take about 2 hours, and are available online throughout the state. These orientations are provided in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. There are future plans to offer the orientation in other languages. These orientations are offered several days a week. Upon completion of the orientation, participants receive a verification of completion that can be shared with the Regional Center to demonstrate completion of the required task. To participate in one of these orientations, register at the email address listed on this slide. The orientation is a first step. There are several steps involved to move from the Regional Center Purchase of Services model to the self-determination model. This process is called SD transition. It is part of the SD individual program planning process. All people in self-determination will have an SD IPP. The goal of SD transition is to become officially enrolled in self-determination. The self-determination regulation states the SD IPP planning process is to be person-centered, informed. It is not mandatory that a person-centered plan be written, but it is a best practice to create a person-centered plan to guide the IPP process. A participant, family, volunteer, PCP planner, or independent facilitator can create the plan. There are a variety of ways to create a plan. The cost of the plan can vary as well. A person-centered plan is to identify a preferred future for where to live, where to work, staying healthy, staying safe, building skills, and keeping active with friends in the community. Begin the SD IPP process with a call to the service coordinator requesting to meet. As part of the budget development, to find out the previous 12 months purchase of services, ask the service coordinator for a POS expenditure report. When meeting with the service coordinator, plan to discuss budget, spending plan, IPP goals, and steps to take towards enrollment. There are approvals needed along the way, and participants need to meet with financial management service providers. If the transition process is delayed or problems arise during this phase, talk to the service coordinator's supervisor or ask that the Regional Center Participant Choice Specialist get involved. Regional Center can fund the payment for person-centered plan writing and other SD transition steps. There are regulations associated with Regional Center purchasing these services. Speak to the service coordinator about best ways to have these services purchased by the Regional Center. Self-determination is a 5-step process and includes person-centered planning, writing goals and objectives into an IPP, creating a budget, developing a spending plan, and identifying a financial management service. The SD IPP process is not like the traditional IPP annual meeting. SD transitioning takes time, and it is likely there will be a need to hold several meetings before the process is complete. There are barriers and obstacles along the way, particularly delays in partnering with an FMS, finding staff, completing employment checks. It takes time to research information, and there may be different interpretations on what is and is not available through SD between the individual and the regional center. Be assured while negotiating the initial first SD-IPP, the current IPP under the traditional POS model remains in place. When facing an obstacle, get support. At the regional center, there are participant choice specialists that assist the service coordinator and IPP team to identify solutions. Ask to work with these specialists when delayed in the transition process. Because there are several steps in the SD transition process, and because each step is dependent on the other, it's important to work a step at a time, but have the whole picture in mind. To have this whole picture approach, prepare ahead of time. Decide if planning to use an independent facilitator, how much time can be devoted to the process. It might be worthwhile to break up the transition timeline to a manageable schedule. Use the knowledge gained from the orientation to have in mind unmet, ongoing, and new needs. Identify these needs as goals to achieve and have an understanding of the costs to address the need and achieve the goal. Do the research, identify supports, and work cooperatively. Self-determination is a new way of arranging and receiving services through the regional center. There are directives, regulations, policies, and requirements to follow. Creativity is required to meet a person's needs while following regulations. It can get confusing. Throughout the developmental service system, there are many people dedicated to see self-determination be a success, and there are many ways to get support. Take advantage of these opportunities. Independent facilitation is one type of support. It is the choice of the individual and family to work with an independent facilitator. The California SD Network is a good online registry and starting point to research and find an independent facilitator. Many regional centers, council offices, and advisory committees are keeping their own lists of facilitators. Check out those resources. Video conferencing can enable you to find facilitators outside the region and throughout the state. Be sure to interview an independent facilitator to access their qualifications. If planning to hire a facilitator, be sure to get agreements in writing and find out about the policies and procedures they have when managing a case and providing IF services. Two of the more difficult steps in the SD transition process are creating the budget and developing the spending plan. It is beyond the scope of this presentation to go into details about these two steps. However, there are some things to consider when navigating through this part of the SD transition. Create a budget first, then develop the spending plan at another time after the budget amount is agreed upon. The budget is the dollar amount the person will have available to receive the supports and services identified in the IPP. Budgets are based primarily on the amount spent in the previous 12 months. The addition of funds that were not utilized or spent in the last year, and additional funds for new needs that have been identified and included in the SD IPP. To get a new need added to the IPP and included in the budget, the person needs to demonstrate how addressing the need will improve integration and community inclusion, and better assures the health and safety of that person. Also, the person will need to utilize any funding available from other community or generic resources before utilizing regional center funds. After the budget amounts are identified and agreed to, then the spending plan can be developed. Share with Regional Center what services will be purchased or who will be hired to address the need. Regional Center needs to make sure that the supports being purchased fit the regulations assuring community integration. Both budget development and spending plan development are new. It can be difficult and take time. Be patient when working with the Regional Center. But also remember when negotiating a budget and spending plan that the individual and family have authority and know best what is needed to successfully address needs. With this authority, align with the Regional Center as an equal partner in the process. Be able to express needs and their importance and express why having particular goals in the IPP and particular expenses in the spending plan are essential for the person's life satisfaction and greater inclusion in the community. Hopefully, information in this overview is helpful and gives directions on the next steps to take when transitioning into self-determination. Thank you.